Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and this is the opposition view with Luke from the UTV podcast. How are you doing, Luke?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me back on the channel.
Yeah, like I say, it's good to have you back ahead of a midweek game between our two clubs. What is it, the most played fixture in English football? I think
Yeah, you got
as
that in there early.
I was going to say, the commentators always have to make a mention of it, so it felt only fair that we did as well. Um, and yeah, like I said, it's definitely from our side of things, it's been a pretty busy week. Quite a few headlines made. So I guess it's I don't think there's any better place to start really. In terms of the Everton side of things, of course. The news came out last Thursday, just before we played our cup tie against Peterborough United, that Sean Dyche was going to be leaving the club. So just before we get into anything really, from an outside perspective looking in, what was your reaction when you saw that news? Were you surprised? Did you think it was the right decision, or did it kind of just come out of nowhere from your side of things?
I mean, I watch a lot of Everton content, and I know there's a lot of sort of like disgruntled Evertonians with the way that you've been playing, etc. And I think that there's a big thing in football now, isn't there? That you want to get results, but you also want to play well. And I think Dyche, he don't play the best football, does he? But he sort of gets results. But what I have been surprised at with Dyche is that there was no sort of progress, if that makes sense. You'd had a couple of years in and around the relegation zone, and even this year, and I know you had the points sort of deduction last year, but it just never felt like you were going to get any better with him. So it always felt like there was going to become a period where, you're going into the new stadium, new owners, fresh start. It did always feel like you were going to get a new manager, but it probably a little bit of a shock to someone that probably doesn't support Everton, that the timing of it sort of, you went through that little bit of a run of drawing some games against some top teams, didn't you? And it was sort of like, okay, they're playing all right, but they're not winning games, and your defense is pretty solid. So yeah, it probably did feel a bit random that you did bring him in at this moment in time. But I think, a lot of you are probably feeling like, yeah, we needed a new manager. And then probably from the outside looking in, like, is Moyes sort of like long term? Like, is he the manager to really get you back into where you want to be? I think it's got that nostalgic feeling of, when you were challenging with us, really, when it was sort of us and Everton that were trying to get into the Champions League, and you guys were the ones that were doing it. So, yeah, I think there's still probably question marks long term, but I think he'll probably get you playing a bit of better football than what Dyche did.
Mm. Yeah, like I say, I think with the whole Dyche thing, I think the narrative in the media was kind of the traditional "oh, be careful what you wish for" type thing. But I think for a lot of our supporters, we kind of accepted that, with the situation that's been going on at the club the last few years with the ownership, and basically it just kind of being a void really the last 2 years, with Mashiri basically all but out and just trying to sell the club onto anyone. We've kind of been in a bit of limbo, and Deitch seemed like the perfect manager to navigate us through that. It could, with the wrong manager in charge, it could have very easily turned very sour for us. And I think people appreciated the job that he had done, but as you say, there was no real um, plan forward for him really. It was just survive every season. 17th will do, and a lot of our fans just got fed up with that really. And as I was someone who was very supportive of him, and even on at the time when it went through, I was very I was quite worried when the decision came through and it was announced. And I wasn't entirely sure what direction we were going to go in. And if we're still very much in a relegation battle this season, I think. And you didn't want to gamble too much, but I honestly think Moyes is a really safe pair of hands. And the way he's been speaking this week, as you said, with there being a long-term plan, he seems very intent on on getting the club up again. And as you say, Deitch was very much just keep us up, but Moyes seems to be a lot more ambitious. And as you say, obviously his time at Everton was a long time ago, but he did a very similar job with West Ham a lot more recently, and took them over when they were really struggling, and very quickly got them up the table and got them into the European places, and obviously finally got the first trophy of his career. So, he's I think he proved that he's very much still a prominent manager who can achieve things in the modern game. So I think a lot of us are very excited, really. So obviously it's not ideal for you boys with it being the first game, and we've had it so many times before where we've been the first game of a new manager's reign, and we've been the victim of that bounce. So yeah, I imagine it's added a bit of a extra pressure onto the game from your side of things and made you not really look forward to it that little bit more now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of got experience playing you with new manager bounces. I think we were Duncan Ferguson's first game, when he was in charge for that period. I
Oh,
think we won
the
2-1.
the second time it was. He had the first
Yeah,
period about 5 years ago, when we beat Chelsea, and we had the few good games. But there was one game after or it would have been after we sat Benitez. He played one game when you had Gerrard. I can still remember
yeah,
Gerrard strutting off the pitch back when you remember just after COVID when the away team still had to get changed in our car park. So
yeah.
they used to go off in the corner by the park end. And I remember being sat in the park end, and at half time, after you'd just gone 1-0 up, Gerrard strutting off the pitch and like staring straight at the fans who were giving him dogs abuse with just a smirk on his face. I could still picture that perfectly in my head. And you're right, I think that was one game that Duncan Ferguson took charge for, and then we got Lampard in. So yeah, as you say, that you managed to handle the situation a bit that time around.
Yeah, and we played West Ham in the FA Cup on Friday, and it was Potter's first game, and it's so difficult, really. I think for a fan to think of like what we can expect from sort of like West Ham, what we can expect from Everton. Really, I think the big thing that we've got to deal with is like the atmosphere. I imagine before the game, it's going to be a bit of sort of like fresh start, euphoria, everyone getting behind him. So I think from a Villa point of view, we've got to navigate that, and we've just kind of got to just navigate what you're going to do. I kind of feel like from a Villa fan, I think you're probably going to open up a bit more than what Dyche probably was going to do. We kind of struggle against teams that just sitting with a bit of a low mid block and just he was pumping balls forward, weren't he? So hopefully it's probably going to be a good game. You're going to probably be attacking. So but yeah, I think from Villa point of view, it's quite difficult to understand sort of like what you're going to do tactically, personnel wise, who's he going to play, etc. So yeah, I think it will be a tough game for Villa, but yeah, hopefully we can navigate it quite well. We've lost our last 5 away games as well, so the run's got to end somewhere. So yeah, I'm expecting a really tough game.
Yeah, I'd say I feel like I'm going to jinx it a little bit saying this, but I do think you have to go back a very long way for the last Everton manager that lost their first game in charge. I think there's been a few draws here and there, but I thinking back, I can't remember the last time an Everton manager lost their first game in charge. I think you'd have to go back a very long way. Um, and I think the last few managers we've had have managed to win their first game. I still remember Dyche's first game in charge, where we were really down in the dumps, and we came up against Arsenal, who were flying at
Yeah,
the
I remember
time,
that.
and we managed to get the
Yeah.
1-0 win because we played completely differently. And as you say, I don't think it's going to be that dramatic a switch in changes. I like to think because it's still the same group of players at the end of the day, and we're all too aware of their limitations. But I think you will be right. I think Moyes is going to want to harness that crowd, and he's going to want us to try and play on the front foot a bit more than Dyche would have had us, as you say, sitting back in a little more and just trying to hit teams with the long balls, really. So, yeah, as you say, I think it will be a lot more expansive and hopefully a good game under the Goodison lights. Um, but yeah, it's got to be said, Villa for me are just such a great blueprint for where I want our club to go in the next few years. I think the rise of Villa in the last few years has just been amazing. And I still remember in like the we've just mentioned Gerrard. I still remember in around the summer of 22, but a year after you'd like sold Grealish and got the money in and started to rebuild your squad a bit. I remember looking at that team and thinking this team has only been in the back in the Premier League for a few years, and is really looking like it can go places now. And it was a bit of bias for me, but as it turns out, also a bit of how it turned out that I didn't think Gerrard was going to be able to deliver you in that place, but I thought it just needs the right manager to get it over the line, and lo and behold, just a few months in, Gerrard gets sacked, Unai Emery comes in, and since then you've just been flying, haven't you? So it's and he's undoubtedly one of the best managers in the league, one of the best managers in Europe. I'd go as far to say, and he's done a really good job. Is it? I know this season's not been quite as maybe as explosive as last season has, and it's obviously looking at the table now. It's still very competitive in those places. I think there's only 2 points between you and third or whatever it is, or fourth. So even though you're in eighth at the moment and the table, like just on paper, doesn't look great for you guys, it's still still Villa very much in there. Are the fan base still 100% like enamored with Emery, or is there little bits of doubt starting to creep in? I'm not sure. Like, what would you reckon?
No, yeah, if everyone absolutely loves him, you are right in what you're saying. This season has been a little bit more difficult compared to last year, for a number of reasons. Obviously, Champions League football, it's been a bit difficult after some of those games because they're so high intensity. But then we've been, we're absolutely smashing it in the Champions League. We're in the top eight and we're doing really well there. And I think what happened was, probably as you guys know, PSR a little bit in the summer really sort of screwed us over a little bit. We wasn't allowed to sort of spend what we wanted to. And, you're thinking like us, Newcastle got into the Champions League, wanting to kick on, and then sort of have like your wings clipped and you can't go about and do what you want to do. So I think what happened was in the summer, our summer business was okay. We had to sell Louise, we got rid of DRB, we left ourselves a little bit short, which is now in this window we're spending money. We're trying to like fill in the areas that we couldn't do in the summer. So we're signing Marlon, we're after a right back. Looks like we're going to sign a centre back. So a lot of our problems should be sorted within this window as well. So I think we've had some disappointing games, and I think what's happening is it's like because Emery wants to play this really sort of controlled possession-based football style. So if you think of like Man City, the old Man City, not the Man City right now, and you think of Arsenal and Liverpool controlling game, that's what we want to do. We don't necessarily have like as good a players, so we're getting exposed a little bit on the counters on transition, but we've still got this real style and identity, and it feels like even if sort of say we finish seventh in the Conference League this year, we'll still have that same plan for next year, and hopefully we can go for Champions League again, etc. So I think we're in a good place rather than it being just like a flash in the pan. Emery wants to stick to his principles and the way he does things. If it doesn't work, he wants us to keep doing it. And like you say, we're 4 points off third. No, 4 points off fourth and 3 points off fifth. Now, fifth should get Champions League this season still. So, we're not actually doing that bad, really, when you think we're competing on different fronts now as well. So, yeah, I think most Villa fans are pretty content, but we know that we can get better. And Emery spoke last week saying that if we get the same points tally as the first half, we'll probably get some form of Europe. So I think I'm especially thinking that I want us to be slightly better than what we were the first half of the season. So, we should sort of get Europe, which I think would be a good achievement.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, like I say, I still think Villa will almost certainly be in there, and the form at the moment it's every now and then you seem to have a game where it doesn't quite click for you guys, but it's mostly been pretty consistent from the outside looking in, I'd say. Um, what's the situation like in terms of availability of players? Are there any like major injuries or suspensions, or do you reckon you'll mostly be full strength for this game?
Yeah, we have got a few injuries. Your mate Barkley, he's out for 2 to 3 weeks, so he won't be playing. Your
Thank
other
God.
mate Onana might play. But yeah, we've got Pau Torres out, who's a big blow for us. You know, he's probably our best ball playing centre half, crucial to the way that we play. So Mings will be in. We've got McGinn out as well. Duran's back from suspension. So yeah, you're looking at like Barkley and McGinn being out and Pau, and then everyone else is sort of available.
And who are you expecting to be like the key man for you to to get a good performance against us?
Oh no, no.
Yeah, yeah. To be fair,
No,
I'm sure he's not going to get the warmest reception. To be fair, so that will
no.
almost certainly spur him on.
He might not play though. To be fair, he's been in and out just recently. He's had a couple of injuries, and he sort of comes back, and he was playing with like an injury, like sort of like from about September to like December time, and then he went away on international, and then he just got injured. So he's been sort of like just in and out of our team. But Rogers is our key player at the minute. You know, he's so good. It's integral to everything that we do going forward. Watkins, again, always a threat. Bailey's back in form. Duran, you know about Duran, he can score from anywhere, so very unpredictable. So yeah, a lot of our forward line are sort of finding a bit of form as well, which is quite good.
Mm. Just off, I saw a post on social media the other day that apparently there's portions of your fan base that are really getting fed up with Watkins and have been crying out for Duran to be the main starter over him. Would you have you been seeing that? Because for as good as Duran has been off the bench and stuff, and has scored obviously some very good goals for you this season, I can't begin to get my head around that if that really is true.
There's a large proportion that think that Watkins misses far too many chances. This season, he has been missing chances. Like there's been numerous games where at the end of games he could get a goal and he doesn't. But you know, Watkins is so crucial to the way that we play because he stretches the opposition and it's the assists he gets as well. You know, if you go back and have a look at Watkins's goals and assists over the last two Premier League seasons, he's literally like right up there. So the thing is with Duran, he was a bit of a problem last year or last season. He's really knuckled down, got his head down. He started playing games now. So Emery, when they're both fit, one normally plays about 60, the other will play 30. So whoever starts, you just swap it round. But Duran sort of was the main guy for about 4 or 5 games, and then he got his red cards, and Watkins was on the bench. So Emery was giving Duran the start. So I think it's just about keeping them both happy, and we've both got two strikers that are really good that kind of do different things. So it should really be a little bit more like game dependent as well of which one will suit that game. But yeah, I love Watkins. I think he's brilliant, and yeah, there's a few Villa fans that don't know what they're on about, to be fair. But yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, from a neutral perspective, I always hate playing against Watkins because as you say, he's just a nuisance. Like he harries defenders, and as you say, like stretches in behind. We haven't had the most mobile defense for a while now. You've got Brantwaite who can handle a bit of pace, but the rest of them really struggle. And with Watkins just constantly nipping at you, as I say, it's a real nuisance striker, and yeah, has been definitely been key for you the last few years, definitely. From the Everton perspective, who are you most worried about? As you say, none of us are too sure exactly who's going to be starting. He might spring a few changes, but who on our team do you reckon will pose the biggest threat?
Yeah, I like Undai. I think he's really, really good. He's one of those players that are very underrated in the Premier League. You could probably put like Cunha in that bracket before he's sort of now starting to get a lot of hype, and I think Undai is exactly the same. You'll probably see hype on him sort of like next season as well. So he's been really good. I think he dribbles with the ball so well. He can finish well. I actually, and this will probably, there's probably a lot of Evertonians that don't rate Decore that much, but I've always rated Decore. I think he's got a good shot on him. He's got a good power. You know, when he sometimes plays in that like number 10 off the striker, powering through. I think he's on his day. I think he's very good, and he's the one. We did our match preview, and I've said he's the one that Moyes will really get the best out of. He will be like Moyes' Souček.
Yeah.
I think. Watch Decore, right? I think he's going to be the one. But yeah, apart from that, I think Branthwaite's really good. Pickford, he's class in goal, any Pickford. His saves are brilliant. He just needs to stop booting it. Just stop booting it. If he just got it on the ground a bit more, I'd say he was like right up there. But it's mainly for England when he just keeps whacking it. It does my head in. But saves, he's like one of the best shot stoppers in probably in Europe, isn't he? Really, it's not just saying Premier League. Like, he's bailed you out loads of times, hasn't he? So yeah, Pickford's a big player for you, isn't he? So yeah, I think those are the ones that I sort of like watching.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned Decore because you hit the nail on the head. I think under Moyes, less the new Souček, more the new Tim Cahill. I think Decore's off the ball movement is brilliant, and the problem for him for a while now has been that it's when he gets the ball that things tend to go wrong. But off the ball, I think his movement is so intelligent, and I think Moyes will, as you say, will really find a role for him where he can be really effective. And don't get him involved in the build-up play because he can't pass the ball to save his life. But if arriving in the box and being in the right place to get the shot away, yeah, I think he could really kick on. And I'm mental hearing a neutral fan like being able to spot that because, as you say, so many of our fans are completely fed up with him. But I think under Moyes he might get a new lease of life, as he did under Dyche for a while. To be fair, Lampard completely alienated him from the squad, and then when Dyche came in, he became an integral part of the team for a good while. So yeah, I completely agree on that one. Well, yeah, I guess just in terms of the match, then score prediction. What are you thinking?
I hate doing these because you sound like really arrogant, don't you? That you're just like diminishing your team and backing your own. But what do I think? It's going to be so difficult because you've got a new manager, haven't you? And it's going to be like feisty in there. I'm going to go 2-1 Villa. I think we might nick it. Yeah, I think we might nick it 2-1.
Yeah, that's it. I'm exactly the same. I've got about my team, and as you say, I hate relying on records and things like that. But what I said about the history of it all, that we new managers don't tend to lose their first game, and as I said, I would have completely jinxed this now. I brought this up, but um, I just have the feeling we're just gonna do a number on you, and like I say, as good a team as Villa are and things like that, I think back to that Dyche game and Arsenal were literally flying at that time, and yet we just played them off the park that day and got a really good win. And as I say, if we're able to harness the crowd, if we're able to catch you off guard a little bit with how we play and have a bit more energy about us, and if the players get on board with it all, then I don't know. I just think we might be able to do a number on you. Fingers crossed. Anyway. Um, yeah. So yeah, just looking ahead at other things really. I think Everton and Villa just I don't know the numbers behind this, but there's so many players that spring to mind that have played for Everton and Villa in recent years, and obviously in very recent times, obviously, with our little PSR like dealings and things like that, there's been quite a few in recent years as well. Obviously this summer was like three or four, wasn't there? Dobbin going to your boys and us getting a Ruben in return, then the deal with Onana. Ross Barkley, obviously, not via Everton, but coming to your boys via Luton. I wanted to focus on Barkley in particular. Obviously, we mentioned him a bit earlier, but there was a lot of our fans last season when he was doing really well for Luton, saying forget about all the negativity aside and how he left us and all the bitterness there, getting back in and things like that. And it was we were kind of a bit split with it all. But obviously he's ended up going to Villa, and he's not quite been a starter, but it seems to me from the outside looking in, he's had a bit of a useful role to play here and there. How have your fans took to him?
Yeah, we've had him before. In COVID, we had him on loan from Chelsea, and he started really well, and he really tailed off. But this time round, he's sort of like, yeah, Emery sort of just moulded him into this really good, controlled central midfielder. So he either comes off the bench, controls the game. He's changed the game a lot of times. He's starting to pop up with goals now. So he's just a really good, solid player. Like you know what you're going to get from him, and he's really fit still. He's not sort of playing like he did for Luton. I mean, Luton literally just said, just go and be Perlo and just boss the game, do what you want, run where you want. Whereas at Villa, it's like we're so like methodical and structured that he's got to sort of like stay in the correct position. And but yeah, his weight of pass is great, tempo's good. For the fee, I think we paid about 2 million for him. And he scored. He scored. Who did he score against? Anyway, he scored a goal. I can't remember who it was at home, but he rifled in bottom corner, and then he scored in the Champions League where he came off the bench and sort of grabbed the winner. So yeah, he's just doing really well for us. Really, a player that just under the radar, not in the lights anymore, but just he's a solid Premier League player.
Yeah, that's it. I'll be completely honest. I never rated him just quite as much as our fans seem to do when he came to. Obviously, there's clearly a lot of talent in there, but he was. I don't think he was ever able to do it consistently enough for us, as he probably should have done. And I think a lot of our players we remember with rose tinted glasses. I think as soon as they leave, they become world beaters. It's already starting with Onana, even though while he was there, everyone was slagging him off and saying he was crap. But now he's gone to Villa and started doing pretty well. Everyone's a bit like, oh, we shouldn't have let him go. But and I think a lot of it's been quite similar with Barkley. But as you say, his career was really in the wilderness at one point, wasn't it? And then going to Luton last season, it's kind of revitalised it a bit. And yeah, now he's doing pretty well at Aston Villa. So it's a bit of a crazy career for him the last few years. And then obviously on our side of things, I don't think we can not mention Ashley Young, who obviously if we're going back to the first Moyes era, I still have horror memories of that game at Goodison, like what 2008 I think it was. With the 3-2, the two of them throwing. Les Scott, who of course ended up going to Aston Villa towards the end of his career, wasn't quite as popular there as he perhaps was at us. Obviously with the whole the 6-0 Liverpool defeat and the tweeting of the car and all that fiasco. But and then yeah, obviously Ashley Young in that game, scoring twice, racing through our defence at the end and winning a thrilling game. Can't imagine he'll be doing that tomorrow, but he's a very very different player now. But yeah, like I said, there's been so many, hasn't there? So many, obviously with us both being pretty much ever presence in the Premier League era, there's been so many players, hasn't there, that have gone between the two clubs. Um, then yeah, obviously what we also like to do on this channel a lot sometimes is a thing called a lineup quiz. So gonna test your knowledge a bit here, and with it being Moyes' first game back, I think it only fitting to go back to the last Everton Villa game in the Moyes era. So going all the way back to 2013, February 2003 at Goodison Park, a 3-3 draw. Don't know if you remember that. Um, uh,
Don't know, it's a
yeah,
long time ago.
yeah, that um, I think it might have been Paul Lambert who was the manager for you at that time. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, 2013. Um, so yeah, so the way we do it is you've got 3 lives, and you've got to try and name the Villa lineup. And if you say a
Oh my
player that
God.
either wasn't started in the team or on the bench, you lose your life, and so you get three lives. So if you Go ahead,
So
see how you
what
do, I
year
guess.
is it?
So it's the 2012-13 season, Moyes' last season at Everton.
Okay, so we'll go Guzan.
Yeah, Guzan was in goal.
Okay, we'll go Bonlahor.
Bon Lahore, yeah.
Benteke,
Benteke, yeah.
Delph.
Uh, oh no, Delph wasn't even on the
No
bench.
Delph.
So
Okay.
that's a life lost.
Okay, we're gonna be in trouble here. We'll go Cleverly.
uh, no Cleverly either.
Oh God, we're having a shot. What's that sense from? Was there a player called Al
El
Hamadi
El
midfield?
El Ahmadi, yeah, that he
Yeah,
started.
in midfield. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Okay, so we
name
got that one.
I'd completely forgotten about.
Uh, Kieran Clark,
Yeah, Kieran Clark started in defence. Yeah,
Ron Vlaar.
yeah, next to Ron Vlaar.
Fullbacks is tough. Um, fullback are really tough. Um, oh, Sissoko.
No, Ali Sissoko. So yeah, that's your lives lost. I'm afraid. The
What
the
was the line of?
fullbacks were very hard. I mean, to be fair, Matt Lowton, I remember. Um,
Oh yeah, should have got
yeah,
that.
and ended up going to Burnley, and then Joe Bennett, who I
Mm.
have no recollection of Joe Bennett at all. I couldn't tell you a thing about him. Um, and then looking up ahead of the pitch, you've got Andreas Weimann, uh, Ashley Westwood, and then Charles Nzogbia was the last one you missed. So yeah, that's a bit of a tricky one to spring on you there. I apologise. Um, but um, but yeah, I guess just to round off, obviously, from our side of things, it's almost certainly going to be the last game that Villa play at Goodison Park. Unless we somehow manage to get you in the cup by some sort of miracle at Goodison. That's if we stay in the cup long enough to do that. But so are you going to be going?
Yeah. I'll go in. I went last year as well, and yeah, I loved it. Love them wooden seats. Just real quirky. I really like Goodison Park. It's a good stadium to go to. It's obviously traditional, isn't it? And we are two traditional clubs, pretty similar. So yeah, it's always a good place to go to. So it's going to be interesting to go, to your new stadium as well. But yeah, sort of experiencing it for the last time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think yeah, I think for a lot of clubs, Goodison being that old-fashioned ground, is it's always a great experience going there. Um, I went to the return fixture earlier this season. We won't talk about the result, but yeah, going to Villa Park earlier this season. I think for the second time. Um, and it's very similar to me. I think proper grand old ground for you know a club with a lot of history, just like ours. Founder members of the football league and all that. And yeah, it's a ground I really enjoy going to. And I think we're going to be close to you now in terms of capacity. I think about 50 odd thousand in this new place, and a bit more spacious in the seats this time. So yeah, that'll be something to look forward to for your away visits. And then finally, just another bit of a quirky question. Um, so what it's a type of thing about Mount Rushmore. And so if there was to be a
Okay.
Mount Rushmore for Aston Villa, what four figures would you have?
Ooh, I'd have Dennis Mortimer. So he lifted the European Cup for Aston Villa. I think he's got to be on it. I'll go Paul McGrath, who is a sort of like monster defender that we had in the 90s. So I think those two probably are like got to be on it. And then personal favourites, I'd have Unai Emery on it because he's the best Villa manager I've ever seen. And then we'll go with a current Villa player. We'll have John McGinn on it.
Fair enough. That's yeah, definitely a nice mixed bag there. But yeah, I think that wraps everything up. So thank you very much, Luke, for joining me. I hope you don't particularly enjoy your evening tomorrow night. But regardless, thank you very much for joining us there. Very insightful about a club that I think a lot of Everton fans I've quite a bit of a mutual respect for Aston Villa. I think we're at very similar places in terms of English the English hierarchy, I'd say. So and yeah, I think it promises to be a very good game. With the added incentives for us. But yeah, please leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment below, giving your thoughts and your predictions ahead of Moyes' second first game in charge of Everton. And yeah, subscribe to the Toffee Blues channel for more Everton content, and we will see you in the next video. Up the Toffees.